We recap the Dallas Stars prospect games from over the weekend. We ask one burning question heading into the 2025-26 season for the Dallas Stars. And former head coach Pete DeBoer speaks on Oettinger one final time.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Welcome back to another week of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. Training camp is just days away for the Dallas Stars, and they kick things off this weekend with the NHL Prospect Games between the Dallas Stars and Detroit Red Wings at the Comerica Center in Frisco. Many fans were in attendance, and the Stars bounced back in Game 2 with a 6-5 victory. We're going to recap the weekend of action after they dropped Game 1, but some thrilling action over the weekend. Also, one burning question for the Dallas Stars. Let me know in the comment section below your burning question heading into this season. And DeBoer spoke out about Oettinger one last time. He said he's going to speak on it for the final time in this article. I'll tell you more a bit later on. But buckle up, a jam-packed show for you here on a Monday. Hope everybody enjoyed your weekend. So I just finished wrapping up Game 2 of the NHL Prospect Games between the Stars and Red Wings. I did not watch Game 1, and from what it seems like, that was probably a good thing. That the Stars lost that one 6-2. They had a couple goals in the third period. I went through some of the notes from Robert Tiffin via Stars Thoughts. I really encourage you to go read some of his notes on the game. Stars gave up an opening goal in the first minute on the first shot. There was some stretches of play where Dallas bounced back. They got into some penalty trouble. Detroit's power play was a weapon over the weekend. Their first 2 goals here on Sunday evening were on the power play to kick things off after the Stars actually had a much better start. They opened up with 2 goals right off the bat. They scored in the first minute via Jackson Feuder. He had himself a nice weekend, couple of goals. I believe he picked up an assist as well. I'm going to try to touch on some of the standouts or at least players that I noticed here tonight in Game 2. But Feuder and Schlein. Schlein was excellent. Schlein is a forward that was drafted actually by the New Jersey Devils. He also has a Russian citizenship, but he created the first goal. He created the first turnover, which led to Feuder's tally in the opening minute. And then he forces an errant pass by Detroit with his forechecking pressure, which ends up being picked off by Feuder. Schlein goes to the net. Feuder finds him, and then he's able to slip it through the five-hole. I thought he had a really strong game. It was someone that stood out to me. Angus McDonnell, that was another player for Dallas who is going to be featured on the Texas Stars. You would think this season he's coming from the OHL. And he had a beautiful one-time goal in the third period. He played with the Brampton Steelheads last season, had 54 points in 46 games. But the Stars' third period was really strong. I thought they skated well. They started to find a rhythm. Look, it's no question Detroit's prospects are much better, maybe overall, or I should say much deeper. They just have had more draft capital over the last decade or so than Dallas has. But I thought it was a really nice effort from Dallas. They were down, I think, 4-2 going into the third period. It could have been 4-3. If I'm not mistaken. There's no live stats, so I'm just kind of rattling this off my head, and a reason why I wanted to jump on here and discuss it right away. But Arton Matino, he had 2 goals in the third period, was just whacking away at a puck to make it 5-4. It was 5-3 at the time. Detroit just scored. And I mean, not even 30 seconds later, the Stars get a puck off the rush. It's Pearson who puts a shot on net. Martino just starts whacking and digging away, just kept fighting and battling for the puck that was loose to the side of the crease. And he was able to jam it in. And then boom, moments later, Trey Taylor. By the way, Taylor, yes, sir. Shout out to Chris Chambers. He mentioned him when we spoke with him a couple of weeks ago. I love Trey Taylor. Trey Taylor's my boy. I love watching him play. He's slippery, has really good awareness, especially on the offensive side of things. I thought he was excellent in the contest. And I think it's really hard for Toby Peterson, who was the head coach of the Stars, to really just kind of have all these prospects, all these different guys thrown together and try to find defensive structure. It's really not possible in 48 hours, maybe 72 hours they have to practice with one another. So they gave up a lot of tasty chances, of course, but you're not looking for the most stout defense and the best defensive zone structure. And I think it made it more fun that there was mistakes. It was helter-skelter at times, and it made it exciting. I mean, 6-5 games in hockey, it's probably the best score in all of hockey. But Taylor was excellent. He played with Clarkson last season in NCAA, and towards the end of the year, he joined Texas and made an impact. And I think he's going to be really, really darn good for the Texas Stars for a whole season. Look, I don't want to project too far ahead, but he seems like a cat that could potentially have a chance to get some NHL time. I believe that. Had a beautiful snipe to tie the game. I believe Feuder fed him the puck down the right wing. He fed it across to the left side. Taylor just skated into it and ripped it up high. Really, really excellent shot to make it 5-5. And then Tristan Bertucci was able to work a centering feed to Martino for his second of the period, and that gave the Stars the 6-5 advantage, and they were able to shut it down from there. Some other guys I thought had some strong games. Chisholm, he scored a goal, had some big hits. It was a physical game. Harrison Scott actually played for the Amarillo Bulls in the North American Hockey League. He played college hockey at Bentley University, and then he transferred to University of Maine for the last 2 years. And he was a part of the Texas Stars playoff run. He played in 14 games. Scott thought he looked really good. He looked excellent. And the California native, I thought, had some really good shifts in the game. The Stars had a good start, and then they got in penalty trouble. They were lit up on the power play by Detroit. They took so many penalties. Detroit ended up scoring 4 unanswered. It was a 4-2 game at one point just because the Stars could not stay out of the box. There was a mini 5-on-3 in the game, so that allowed the Red Wings to get their offense rolling. But what a third period by Dallas, and that was good to see. Look, I'm not going to try to look too much into it, but they came out firing. They skated hard. You could tell that they just were more proactive, not hesitating. They were making things happen, and really, really exciting game. And credit to those guys. And then one last shout out to Arno Tiefensee. That's how you pronounce it, Tiefensee, the German goaltender who we've discussed here quite a bit recently. He's 6'4", 212 pounds. And as I said, I don't think the Stars did him any favors in front of him. He had to face some just grade A opportunities. There was times when the Red Wings were coming right down the slot, just uninhibited, and they were getting shots from 15 feet in the dead of the slot, and there's nobody marking them. So I don't imagine it's a great indicator of evaluating goaltenders. But I'll say this: he looks really calm. He made some excellent stops too in the game. There was some chances for Detroit right on top of the crease. They were driving that hard, and he just seems really calm. He's a big guy, so he doesn't have to do too much. He just kind of squares up to the play. But I thought he was sharp early, and he made some really, really nice stops. I like his game, and he will get a crack at his first year in the North American Hockey League upcoming. He is German. He is going to get a chance, you would think, to play with the German national team during the Olympics as well. Grubauer is sort of the main guy for Germany. So who knows if he plays, but he'll have a crack at the North American game in the ECHL with the Idaho Steelheads, and we'll see what he does from there. Of course, the Stars not really worried about their goaltending depth, but they have good depth with Ben Cross and Poirier, who made an appearance on Saturday night in game one as well. But of course, with Otter and such, not like we're looking 5 years down the road. It's at somebody like Tiefensee to maybe crack an NHL lineup at some point, but you never know if he continues to progress, and he's an undrafted free agent. But I liked his game. But all in all, I thought the 60s looked good. Anybody in who's wearing numbers in the 60s, I thought had a really strong game. The Jackson Feuder line was great, and just overall a fun game. I mean, 6-5 back and forth. Can't do much better than that for some prospect games. So did want to highlight some performances and some players that stuck out to me. So there you have it. Stars bounce back for 6-5 victory after dropping game 1 6-2, and training camp is now later this week, starting the 18th. So one burning question for the Dallas Stars. I'm going to share mine. Let me know yours in the comments below, and we'll discuss in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? It's easy. You just use Indeed. You've heard me talk about Indeed so much over the past couple of years. When you need to hire, you need to find the right candidates fast. You don't have all the time in the world because you're so busy to find the perfect candidate. That's where Indeed comes in. It is the perfect one-stop shop to find your right candidates with sponsored jobs. You can speed up the hiring process. That's the best thing. You get resumes that match your job requirements, and you can speed up that hiring process, as I mentioned, with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. One burning question for the Dallas Stars heading into the 2025-26 season. This was a prompt from The Athletic, actually, and I want to share with you the one burning question The Athletic wrote, and then I want to give my own question heading into the season for the Dallas Stars. But it kicks off with, what is the future of Jason Robertson? They did one burning question for all 32 teams in the NHL. But for the Stars, what is Jason Robertson's future? It says here, Robertson is entering the last year of his contract. Y'all know that. We've talked about it quite a bit. And while he'll only be an RFA next summer, he is due for a massive raise from his current $7.75 million cap hit. It's hard to imagine the Stars parting ways with such a great young talent. He could theoretically be extended any day now, but with Mikko Rantanen on the books, Thomas Harley due to a next deal, it makes it very, very hard for Jim Nill to find wiggle room for Jason Robertson. That's from Mark Lazarus of The Athletic. And we've really sort of beat this nail quite a bit over the summer. I feel like Dallas in Robo are going to play out this year without a contract, I would suppose, sort of a prove-it year. And if he has a big season, maybe the Stars are able to work something out. Could be a short-term deal. I know that's probably not in the best interest of Robertson and his camp after already signing sort of a bridge deal, but maybe that's a possibility, right? It's something you have to consider if you're Nil. Maybe a low-term, high compensation, high AAV for another couple of years, just to find a way to work him into this cap, because it's going to be tough. And I've said it multiple times, I'm taking Harley over Jason Robertson every day of the week if you had to choose between the two, but he is an RFA. So they have an interesting decision to make on Robertson's future. But I believe they'll probably play out this year because I think he's going to be a huge part of Dallas. Frankly, he has to be. If Dallas wants to win a Stanley Cup, they need him to play at an elite level and find the offense, find the game that we're accustomed to seeing, and continue to elevate himself and hopefully others come playoff time. He brings some physicality too. Have to give him some credit there. Pretty strong defensively in a lot of ways. And this could be a really big season for him. And maybe it's too much for Dallas to afford. You may just have to live with that. And if they believe they can't get a deal done, then he could be on the trading block. And the Stars will have to consider it if they feel like they're not even close to Robertson's camp on what he wants. And then you don't want to rant in a situation sort of like Colorado, and then you move him quickly, maybe a bit heinously, and then it comes back to bite you a bit. But you can at least get some prospects for him, or at least get some really good talent if they have to move off of him. So it is going to be fascinating. I'm betting they just kind of play the year out and they'll deal with it next summer, because I think Robo is going to take this is a year to prove you're worth what? 13 million, 12 million, whatever it is. And maybe he gets it from the Stars. Maybe he doesn't. But my one burning question for the Dallas Stars: will Glenn Gulutzen be the difference? I think that is the most obvious question, but also the one that is most relevant after what we've seen over the last few years with Pete DeBoer. And we'll hear more about him here in just a moment. But can the Stars get over the hump with Golitzon? Did they need a change in philosophy, change of system, change of approach? A new head coach coming back for his second stint hasn't been pretty in other places. And Golitzon is heading into really what I think is going to be his final chance as a head coach. Will it work, or does it fall flat on its face? Stars bring back a lot of similar pieces, still have their veteran presence, Sagan, Duchesne. You got Jamie Benn. How does he work with them? How does he elevate the Stars' power play? Was known as a power play specialist in Edmonton over the last 8 seasons. This collaborative sort of system with Nazardine and Neil Graham now on the offensive side of things. Can Golitzon move this team 1%? Move them 1%, right? That was sort of the quote he's given. Can they just increase the Stars by 1%? Because the Stars are good. They have decent depth. Their back end, I think, stronger than it has been maybe in recent years. We know what they got in Jake Oettinger. Is the head coach the missing piece for Dallas? Was it truly DeBoer and his time running out? And now Golitzon has a chance to prove he can be a head coach in the National Hockey League, because it just feels like this is the one last chance. He gets a great team to inherit, and it seems like he's made the right decisions. He's made the right moves. He said the right things. He's learned from his mistakes. All of that is there, but we have to see it in action. And that's my one burning question. Is Golitzon going to be the difference? Because if not, then we're right back where we were heading into this offseason. If the Stars don't show some signs of improving, because 3 trips to the Western Conference Final and nothing to show for it. I am curious too, and sort of maybe it's something I'll kind of save for the next segment, because it really has to deal with DeBoer, and maybe why Noel made the decision just based off kind of what we know, and we've had a couple more months to view on it or to chew on it a bit. So I did have a question there, but that's my one burning question for the Stars. Golitzon. I think it's the most obvious one. Maybe not to some of you. That's why I want to hear yours and see yours in the comments below. But it feels like it's a much more open, collaborative coaching staff this season than it was maybe under DeBoer. But you have to factor in and be fair. DeBoer was a very, very good head coach. The Stars were not going to have a lot of great options if they were going to get rid of DeBoer, it's one of the reasons why I was saying I would hold on to him. But based off what you sort of heard from in and around the locker room, it was time to move on for both sides probably. And it's not like Golitzon is just a slam dunk. There are some question marks, and that's what makes it exciting, a bit thrilling, a bit anxious. So that's my one burning question as training camp starts in just a couple of days. And now we're going to hop into DeBoer speaking for the final time. This came out over the weekend as well, or maybe it was last week. DeBoer speaking on Oettinger and expressing regret. It seems like for the first time. I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. How about this weekend of football, college and NFL? What a win for the Cowboys. What a win for the Aggies at Notre Dame. Just back and forth in both of those games. And right now, by the way, you can get in on the action with FanDuel. You can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes it so much fun when you're on the couch over the weekend, just taking in each and every game. Why not have a little fun, sprinkle some cash on your favorite team or your favorite player with the same game parlay? It's quick, easy. It's the best way to give yourself a little more energy over the weekend. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. The NHL.com had a sit-down interview with head coach Pete DeBoer over the summer. This came out yesterday, which was Saturday, September 13th. And they get into the nitty-gritty on DeBoer and Jake Oettinger. I want to share with you some of the quotes from the article and bring up that question that was sort of bouncing around in my mind when I read one of these quotes. But the first quote comes for here, his first public comments since being fired. And DeBoer says, "It was on me. It was on all the coaches. It was on all the players. It was on the organization as a whole. We all created the disappointment. We were to blame, not just one guy." When all the questions at the post-game conference, of course, rose about Jake Oettinger, he mentioned he should have redirected the topic to reflect that it wasn't just about him. This was all about all of us. We, and I stress the word we, did not get the job done. We were on a run in which we'd lost 6 of our past 7 games against Edmonton in the third round, dating back to 2024. And one of my answers, I said, he lost 6 of 7 to them, but it wasn't just him. It was all of us. That's not just one guy. I should have made that clear. And if he would have said those things, he may still have a job today. But after reading that and just knowing what sort of we know now, I don't know if DeBoer would have said the right thing. Let's say if he did say the right thing, I don't know if that would have mattered. I believe Nil went into the Stanley Cup playoffs after the disaster ending to the regular season. I think Nil was under the impression, or at least under the mindset of, it's either we get to a Stanley Cup final or we're moving on from DeBoer. I don't know if the comments post-game of the Western Conference Final, Game 5, really had anything to do. I'm sure it had helped and maybe made it easier just because the relationship was a bit frazzled potentially, although it says in here they're still on good terms and he respects Oettinger and all that stuff. But I'm under the impression now that Nil made the decision, like if the Stars got to the Stanley Cup final, win or lose, DeBoer was going to be back or return as a Dallas Stars head coach. But I think he went in, if they lose again at any point during the postseason, they were going to make a change. I've said multiple times on here before that if he doesn't say those things, he still has a job. But I don't think I believe that anymore. I'm gonna sort of switch positions on that. And it goes in to talk about how it's weird that he's not preparing for a training camp. And it talks about that it was a roller coaster ride, those last 7-8 games of that regular season, of course, where the Stars really struggle. Goes in, talks about, of course, his success in Dallas. And he has the most playoff victories without winning the title of any coach in the NHL at this point. He mentioned how fun the Four Nations face-off was. He will be returning as an assistant coach with Team Canada at the Olympics in 2026 as well. It talks about how there was so much momentum and he was a bit on a high, especially after the Four Nations face-off, one of the best moments of his career, he says. And then they get Mikko Rantanen a few weeks later. And then, of course, the regular season ended poorly. But he goes here, he says, I know the stories immediately came out that I'm hard on goalies, but the fact is I only pulled Jake once in 57 games in the regular season. That's a fact. The first 30 seconds of the timeout was me blasting our team. And if I could have, I would have blasted myself and our coaches too. I mean, you're mad and disappointed in that moment at everything, at the team, at the start, at the goalie, at yourself, at everybody. Why are we in this spot? You know, we have this opportunity and we're in this spot. So it's a scattergun of anger and bitterness. And he said it was not made out to be about Jake Oettinger. And that's where it's like, well, you could have made it out not to be him if you just didn't say what you said after the game. you like you said, if you could have redirected it and it wouldn't have ever been about him. Maybe to some degree, but not as much. And he just said, I felt our group had got to that same spot 3 years in a row. And we needed a shock to the system at that point. And there was nothing off limits at that point to try to shock us back. And I think that's fair. Look, I defended DeBoer. I've said it multiple times. I'll say it again. I'll defend him for pulling the goalie. The Stars were off to a horrendous start. And sometimes you have to shake things up. And that can be a make or break moment for you as a head coach. And I know the Stars made it interesting a bit. It didn't help that Smith and the Stars gave up a goal, just under a minute later after they made the change. But I'll defend him there. And he said he'll defend himself. And I think he should. And that's fair. Your team didn't show up. You obviously didn't have them prepared. So it was sort of one last ditch effort to make something happen. It's a desperation move. And look, it's easy to sit here and say it was the wrong thing. It's easy to say here it was the right thing. But hindsight's 2020. So, but of course, he mentions here this is the last time. It's the last time he'll speak on this. And if anybody asks him questions, he'll just refer to this article. But it's a really, really good story. NHL.com by Mike Zeisberger. Some good stuff there. And just reading some of the quotes, it got me thinking and just chewing on it one last time. I didn't want to spend a ton of time on it since we kind of beat the dead horse on this conversation. I think Neil thought you either get to Stanley Cup final, win or lose. If you don't, you're out. That's sort of my impression. The more we kind of move farther and farther away from the whole situation and debacle of that Western Conference final. So there you go. Maybe the last time we'll speak on Pete DeBoer here on Locked On Stars. But that's going to do it for this Monday edition of Locked On Stars. I want to thank you all for the love and support on each and every episode. Let me know your burning question. Let me know if you went out to the Prospect Games. Maybe somebody that I didn't mention that stood out to you potentially in Game 1. As I said, didn't get a chance to watch Game 1, but really, really enjoyed a thrilling 6-5 victory in Game 2. A lot of fun stuff prepared for the week. I'm hoping to get Robert Tiffin, by the way, as a guest. We're working on that. Sam Nessler as well from DLLS. Of course, we got training camp right around the corner, so a lot of fun stuff. Hockey is back. So let's get excited. Let's get ready to rock and roll. A long season ahead for the Dallas Stars. But please be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a review on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts as well. See you on the next episode. So long, Stars fans.